So many of you may see video games just like a hobby or activity for like teenage boys. While this is true, video games have actually helped evolve to the technology we have today in like smartphones and just the virtual reality stuff we have today. So in just like 40 years, video games have evolved from computer space, an arcade game in 1970, to a virtual reality headset just ran by an iPhone, which is just crazy if you think about it. Quoted by Mark Wolf, the author of The Video Game Explosion, A History from Pong to PlayStation and Beyond, he says, video games have now been around long enough that an importance in their history is growing. So in other words, it's important to know this history so you can appreciate the things you have today, like the games on your phone, just phones in general. These past few weeks I've done a lot of research about this to just teach you about it. So today you'll be learning how video games were first created, how video games have evolved, and how video games are used in the present day and age. So to go back, how many of you have played an arcade game before? Alright, yeah, just the ones with the simple 25-cent slot. If you enjoyed that game, give thanks to this man, Nolan Bushnell. He is a computer graphics designer that graduated from the University of Utah and also the founder of Atari. He created the very first computerized video game, which was Computer Space. It looked like that big hunk of plastic that just basically you were a spaceship and you just, like two spaceships, and you just knocked an asteroid back and forth. So it was basically like ping pong, but just like that. And it wasn't really fully developed, so he continued to do that, and then he came up with the game Pong, which was just better graphics, but basically the same game. And this was like the very first popular video game that exploded, and people found it very, very popular, so much that he founded Atari, Nolan Bushnell did, and that's where the first like console video game was born, like the things that you plug into your TV and you take and you can play games at your house. So when he created Atari, he made the Atari Sears Telegame Pong system in 1975. It's a very large name, but that's what it looked like. You basically used the knobs to control the different paddles on both sides. And then after that, a company named Magnavox, they created the Odyssey collection, which was basically the same thing. It had games like tennis, hockey, and ping pong. It was basically all the same, but they created like 7 different models. That was the 100, this is the Odyssey 200, 300, 400, and the 500. I couldn't find the 600 and 700, but from 1975 to 1977, 10 consoles were released, which was really amazing because it was like a new technology that no one had ever seen before, so it was like a big craze. And like I said, they all had the same graphics, and well, they all had the same games, but the graphics and controls were just the main difference between them. From 1978 to 1980, Nintendo and Tesla were founded. Nintendo is probably more familiar to you guys, and this is when the racing and shooter games were first shown, so it attracted a whole new audience with the new controllers that were used. For example, Nintendo released this. It's like a racing game where you use a steering wheel to play. There was games like this with a gun. It was like hunting, and then hunting type games and just like stuff like that. And here's another one. It had both. So this was the first time like a system that you could play 2 different types of games were shown, so that attracted an audience too. From 1980 to 1990, this was really the golden age of video games. Games like Pac-Man, Zelda, and Mario were shown. And this was all due to the gaming console, the Nintendo Entertainment System. During this time, cartridge gaming was the first. Well, cartridge gaming first appeared, and so basically all you had to do was stick like a game in this little cartridge here, and you could interchange them and play like up to like 50 different games. So this attracted a whole new audience too, and started bringing more people towards video games. 1990 to 2000, consoles started seeing the use of discs for the game, and that really attracted a new audience. Sony was the main ones who did this, and during this time, Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft were basically the only ones in the gaming business because their products were loved by everyone. So the Super Nintendo released after the Nintendo, the plain one. This was basically just an upgrade from that. and people loved that again. It was a cartridge gaming console. But then PlayStation or Sony released the PlayStation, and this ran on a disc. This was the first time people had seen this, so people really liked it. For some of you, this is probably your very first console. I see Tanner nodding his head. So a lot of you probably played this, and then basically this turned into a battle between Nintendo and Sony to who could create the better consoles. So after this, Nintendo released the Nintendo 64. A lot of you have probably played this, and then PlayStation released the PlayStation 2, then the GameCube from Nintendo, and then Microsoft at the end of this time around like I think it was 1998, they released the very first Xbox, and this was loved by a lot of people too, so that's where Microsoft really came in the gaming industry. This was all done by research by Michael Poe, a journalist for a tech-involved website, Honkiat, where he explored the evolution of video games. So, where are we now? In video games, well, after this, there was about a 3-year break from 2000 to 2003 where nothing was really released. And this was all due to the companies wanting to create the best product they could and just really make video games the best that they could be. So during this time, faster processors allowed 1080p graphics, and this is where we came into the consoles that we have now. Some of these are the Xbox 360 and the Xbox One. These have really good graphics that no one had seen before. And then in 2005, the Wii was released, and the Wii introduced 3D graphics that were, it was just something that no one had ever seen before, and again, it attracted a huger audience. And so Xbox and PlayStation copied them pretty much with the Xbox Connect and the PlayStation Move, and a lot of people enjoyed those. And then the 3D technology that was in those, that's really what we have in smartphones now. Like the games that you play where you have to tilt the screen and stuff, that was all thanks to the Wii and their use in the 3D technology. And same with the processors and stuff like that. Like the processors that are used in like Xbox Ones and stuff, that really helped shape the processors that are used in Apple phones, like iPhone. They have, yeah, that's the same, it's pretty much the same thing. And then on the money side of things, Atari's first console just sold 75,000 copies at $98 a piece, which really wasn't that many. But now, annually, video games exceed a billion dollar industry annually, which is crazy if you think about it. This can be seen on these graphs from the book Understanding Video Games, the Central Introduction by Jonas Smith, where he explores the video games and how they work in society. As you can see, as of 2014, PlayStation sold 13.5 million copies, and that's just of 2014. So if you think about it, that number is maybe almost doubled by now. And Xbox and Wii kind of died off, but Xbox can be kind of similar. So each of these selling 13.5 million, selling for $300 a piece. That's a crazy amount of money. And then these are gaming companies and their revenue. Activision, they make like Call of Duty and games like that. In the number in millions, they made $4,856 million. That's as of 2013, just total, all the money they made, which is crazy. And then this graph shows also how much smartphone gaming and handheld gaming have grown. Although console gaming is predicted and has dropped a lot, as you can see on the graph right here, smartphone gaming and handheld gaming have grown so much, and that's all due to the better graphics that consoles have created. So video gaming has really grown a lot over the 40 years, starting out as this piece of plastic you can see kind of, to an iPhone 7 that you can just carry anywhere and play. You can play like Angry Birds and Subway Surfer now, and then back then you had to like drop in 25 cents and then you could play like for 30 seconds this little game that had really crappy graphics. So it's amazing how far they have came. So today you learned about how video games have evolved, how they were first created, and how they shape the world today. So I hope you use this to appreciate what you have today